Everybody Loves Raymond and Dragon Ball Z. Two completely different TV shows. Or are they? So, I'm a huge fan of both of these shows. The sitcom, Everybody Loves Raymond. I think it's the best classic traditional sitcom performed in front of a live studio audience. And then the greatest anime ever created, Dragon Ball Z. I'm a massive fan of both these shows. I'm starting to notice the more reruns for both shows that I watch over the years and years and years, I'm starting to see this incredible connection between Goku and Vegeta and Raymond and Robert. Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z is always jealous of Goku throughout the whole series of Z, always comparing himself to Goku, always jealous that Goku always gets all the glory. He always defeats the big bad villain. It seems like Goku always gets all the attention of everybody. Vegeta is always in second place to him. He's so jealous and envious. The same thing could be said for Robert in Everybody Loves Raymond. It's in the title. I mean, Robert feels neglected. He feels like he can never one-up Raymond. Raymond always gets all the attention, and Robert barely gets any. Raymond, no matter what he does, he always gets more leeway and more praise than Robert. The same thing could be said for Goku. Despite all the accomplishments that Vegeta has and all the enemies that Vegeta defeats, and he does defeat enemies, this is a message to the fans that a lot of people always criticize Vegeta for never defeating any bad guys, which is not true. He did defeat Dodoria, Zarbon, Android 19, when Goku couldn't, and Jace from the Ginyu Force. I mean, there's a whole bunch of villains that Vegeta defeated. And it's just amazing how Robert and Vegeta are like the same. And in Everybody Loves Raymond, Raymond is similar to Goku. They're both like naive characters. They both have a lot of childlike qualities to them. Even though they're both adults, they get all the attention, despite the fact that they really didn't want any attention. They just seem to like breeze through life, and they do things, and everybody loves them for who they are, because they have something about them that people in general, the peanut gallery of people in general, seem to latch onto, whereas Robert and Vegeta, for some reason in society, because of their personalities or whatever it is, they struggle to have connections with people like Raymond or Goku does. It's just interesting because you can say that Everybody Loves Raymond is not an action show. You know, it's just a sitcom. It's about family. But the whole rivalry between Raymond and Robert, it's action-oriented. It's like an action show, but with words rather than fists. Whereas DBZ is all about action with physical action. Plus, there's also comedic elements in Dragon Ball Z as well. Plus, the fact that Robert and Raymond are also brothers. That's similar to Goku and Vegeta. Goku and Vegeta are not brothers because Goku's brother was Raditz. But the fact that throughout most of Dragon Ball Z, Goku and Vegeta were the only two living Saiyans that remained from their race, their Saiyan race, they both always had a connection with one another. So they were kind of like brothers throughout the series. So it's similar to Robert and Raymond. And the experiences that Robert and Raymond went through growing up together with Frank and Marie is something that only the two of them can fully understand together. And the same thing could be said with Goku and Vegeta. Even though Goku learns that he's a Super Saiyan, for some reason, instinctively, Goku naturally, slowly understands what makes him a Saiyan. So Goku and Vegeta come from the same place, in the same way that Robert and Raymond come from the same place. It's amazing how many connections both these shows have with one another. And Everybody Loves Raymond, the title could also be applied to Dragon Ball Z. Everybody loves Goku. They all do. All the main characters do. Even the villains are envious of Goku's power. And they're also in shock of how powerful Goku is. Robert in Everybody Loves Raymond and Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z, they are the outcasts. They are the anti-hero for both shows. They are antisocial characters. They're the most relatable characters in both of these shows. It also reminds me a lot of the Looney Tunes, too. Yes, to make a third connection, I always noticed growing up in the 90s and the 2000s that I felt the relationship between Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck was similar to Goku and Vegeta's. Bugs, no matter what he does, he's always on top, he defeats everybody. Bugs is the best, Bugs Bunny. The hero. Everybody loves him, and Daffy is so jealous of Bugs. He's so envious of everything that he stands for, and Daffy can never one-up Bugs. Never. Daffy is always in second place. Daffy is Vegeta, and Bugs Bunny is Goku. So that's 3 shows that have a connection with that same exact pairing dynamic, and it's extremely entertaining. So when you think about it, dating back as far back as we can go in pop culture, the origins of this kind of jealousy, competition between 2 people, it began with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck in the 1950s. Then later on, during the late 1990s, Dragon Ball Z and Everybody Loves Raymond became the new version of that. And also, Everybody Loves Raymond and Dragon Ball Z, they both debuted in the same time period during the 1990s. So especially growing up in the 2000s, they used to air endless reruns of Everybody Loves Raymond on TBS. Back in the day, they had the slogan, "Very funny." And that's where I became such a massive fan of Everybody Loves Raymond. I would just watch hours and hours of reruns of Everybody Loves Raymond. It was crazy. Back in the day, I was a TV junkie, guys, and I loved it. And when I wasn't watching reruns of Raymond on TBS, I was watching reruns of Dragon Ball Z on Toonami. And all of that stuff was going on in the early 2000s. During the early 2000s, Robert and Raymond were doing the same similar kind of things that Goku and Vegeta were doing in the early 2000s on Toonami in the United States. So watching both shows back and forth, I mean, how could you not make the connection, especially as a 90s kid? Vegeta, of course, is famous for having all these long diatribes and dialogue about how much he's envious of Goku and how jealous he is of Goku. Robert does the same thing in Everybody Loves Raymond. There's tons of episodes where Robert goes off the rails about how much attention Raymond gets more than he does. How Robert was always neglected as a child and as an adult. And how Raymond always gets everything. Raymond, Raymond, Raymond. Vegeta does the same thing. Both characters are famous for these long sentences and drawn-out melodramas about how jealous they are of their brother. But in the end, despite their faults, both Robert and Vegeta are good people in the long run. But Robert and Vegeta, for some reason, they had to struggle, whereas Goku and Raymond, for some reason, they naturally got attention from people, and for some reason, they were able to do everything in their lives without a lot of inner struggles or having jealousies of other people. But both Goku and Raymond, they lack depth, and it seems like they accomplish things out of luck, whereas Vegeta and Robert, they work so hard in both shows to accomplish their goals. And I think both shows are saying something about society, especially the way the characters of Robert and Vegeta are written. It's very interesting. It kind of reminds me of the movie Forrest Gump. Yes, another connection. If you can all recall in Forrest Gump, Forrest is not a very bright man, but he's a lovable character, and he goes throughout the film constantly accomplishing all these amazing things without really thinking too much. He just does what he's told to do, and then all this amazing stuff happens to him. And then his girlfriend in the film, Jenny, struggles so badly throughout the film. Every time she tries to accomplish something, she's met with a brick wall, or she became addicted to drugs, or she hung out with the wrong people by accident, or she tried to be really ambitious, but she was punished for it. Society punished Jenny in Forrest Gump for trying and daring to be different in society, whereas Forrest Gump seemed to follow whatever was happening in society at the time, whatever trend it happened to be, fighting in Vietnam, other things, and Forrest was rewarded for this. That's why the message in Forrest Gump is really, it could be a negative message. It could be American propaganda. I'm not really too sure. It's just interesting to think about. So, Forrest Gump, Looney Tunes, Raymond, DBZ, are all these shows, is the message in all of them that don't question society, don't be daring, don't try to question authority, just do what you're told and everything will naturally come to you? And it's frustrating. It's like society punishes people for thinking too deeply and for trying things that are really different. When you're too different, when you're different in society, people don't view you as a success like the other regular people, quote unquote, are. It kind of feels like that message is in all of these old TV shows and movies and cartoons. And it makes me wonder if all of these shows and stuff we watch, do they have agendas? Or is it just entertainment? I don't really know. A combination of both? I mean, these are all things I love. I love Forrest Gump. Love Dragon Ball Z. Love the Looney Tunes. And I love, everybody loves Raymond. It's just something to think about and ponder about. It's just amazing, like this epiphany I had. As soon as I grew up, I just started to think about all the connections that all these shows and movies had with one another that I wish I knew when I was younger, when I was a kid. But it was like in the back of my mind I thought that stuff. Anyway, these are just my thoughts about how strange of a connection I noticed between the sitcom Everybody Loves Raymond and Dragon Ball Z. Amazing, right? Robert and Raymond and Vegeta and Goku, forever connected to one another. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. And my name is SuperPat98, and I will see you all again real soon.